let us know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's live. It stays over here.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Living My Promise Under 40. We have today three amazing people, and I say amazing because I genuinely believe so. When I was their age, I didn't think about stuff like this. So we have Archana, Dinesh, and Pratik, two of them in their 20s. And this is a conversation between the three of them to talk about why they did it, what made them, think about doing something as pledging at this young age, 50% of what they have or will build up. They'll talk about issues like what's the right age, what about if they have already got kids, what about the kids who are young? If they haven't got a partner yet, how will they handle issues with their partner later on in life? What do their parents think about this? How do they think about the future? And medical emergencies should they appear? As we get kicked off, I'd like them each to just to tell us a bit about their background. How did they get to where they are today? And I'm leaving it over to you guys, Pratik, Dinesh, and Archana. Over to you guys.
Great.
Go ahead,
Definitely. I'll take the lead. So thank you so much, Louis, for the quick short introduction and quick background. In my case, so starting, I come from an army background. Dad is a retired army officer. And throughout, while growing up also, of course, like I've seen the patriotism, nationalism, everything right in front of me. And more than that, it was always that what are we doing towards the nation? What are we doing towards creating an impact or helping people? And right from childhood, seeing that, it was something which just was ingrained in me. And of course, alongside then, there were things like building my career, building everything. And that's where I decided like, I'll move over to Europe. I'll just start working over there. I worked with Airbus, with Bayer, and then went into the startup space, built a startup over there. And I think where I got really, you can say like, for the lack of better word, epiphany, or really into like, okay, what am I doing? Is it meaningful? Does it really make me move? Was, I think one of the examples was, or incidents was within a span of a month, we had a dinner back in Berlin, and it was at a Michelin star restaurant, and it was nice. The experience was nice for the first time, eating over there, seeing how everything is. And after a few weeks, coincidentally, one of my friends invited me to a dinner which was arranged for refugees in Amsterdam. And we had to cook everything, make everything, and then serve over there. And later on, when I was reflecting my feelings and how I felt, and that you can say what was meaningful for me personally, I felt like, okay, I would rather do the second thing always. And that is something which is much more meaningful, where I feel like, yeah, I've like made a difference, or at least like something which is moving me, rather than just like running behind fancy dinners or fancy things, and then the same old cycle of like everything which everyone is running after. And that's when I thought like, yeah, I really don't want to see the rest of my life in the first like circle, and I'd rather move to the second this time. And that's what basically kickstarted the whole initiative. And after that, through different initiatives, through connecting with different people, I got connected to some of the pledgers in LivingMyPromise. And I thought that, yes, this is something that I'm already doing. So I would also meet wonderful people over here. And along with it, I think it will help to just create something more, some bigger impact. So yeah, that's my story in very short. Of course, as we go ahead in the conversation, we just share and learn a lot more things. I would pass on to Dinesh.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks, Pratik.
I'll start off with a basic background about myself as well, just like Pratik did, right? So, um, my father was a professor. My mom worked for the electricity board. So I come from a very middle class family. Uh, the, the biggest difference between or the biggest differentiator between an average Indian household uh, and my house was that my mom was always the breadwinner in the family, right? My mom joined a full-time job before my dad did. My dad was still doing his PhD, and if I'm not wrong, I think for most of their lives, my mom always made more money than my dad did, right? And the coolest part is that wasn't wrong, right? That was everything at home was cool. It was it was more than accepted, right? It was there was nothing wrong about it, right? And that I think is like a more personal background on and throws light on how I kind of why my views of approaching things are different than other people, right? Uh, that said, I'm basically an engineer. I come from Chennai. I would like to call myself a serial entrepreneur. I'm not too super successful, so I'm not too sure if I can. But uh, I, I believe that through whatever I've done, or rather, or whatever experiences I have so far, and including my family background, I believe that basic education is the solution to all of society's major problems, right? And that was basically the motivation behind joining LMP, right? Uh, I got to know about LMP through again one of the very initial pledgers, Mr. Ganesh Narajan, when I was doing another workshop, uh, and this was like, okay, yeah, they're big people, they're pledging a lot of money. Is this something that I need to be doing? Was the initial thought. But then the motivation for actually signing this was, I knew I wanted to do something on the education side or bring something, make a difference there, but I didn't know how to, right? And I found a lot of people at LMP who are doing something similar, and I thought that's going to be super helpful for me to find my path into what I want to do. And yeah, that's essentially why I've joined LMP. Over to
Nice.
you, Archana. Yeah.
Yeah. So, those were really lovely, interesting backgrounds to learn about over and above what we were talking about yesterday and catching up. So, just a brief glimpse into. So, I like most of the Indians out there. I was born into a small middle class family. My mom was in the bank. My dad was initially with Enfield, and then he decided he will go his own way because of whatever reasons. So, like what Ganesh said, my mom did earn a lot more than my dad did all the time. So that was definitely there. So like any middle class family, like my house was a 2 BHK, 750 square feet in Chennai. That's how I grew up. Went to school, the most, the nerdy school around, where we were told that study hard and be hardworking, learn a lot, and get yourself a job and become financially independent, and that's what will make you a lot more stable in life. That's all that it takes, and nothing else matters in life, that kind of a thing. So I was the principles and the values that my parents and people around me had instilled in me was to say that, hey, how do I become independent? How do I become financially independent and just stand on my own legs? So that's the kind of values that were taught to me, to do my own thing and to be independent. To the extent that, I mean, the background that I come from, it is like in a month, if I got the 10 rupee dairy milk, it was like a feast for me. That's the kind of environment that it was that I was brought up in, which was also really the other side of it was, though we were in a place where we were comfortable, we did get what we want, and we were having a lot of fun in the family and among our neighbors as well. There was also the other side of both my parents, where they introduced us to people that they were connected to and they were working with. Like my dad used to always hang around with the homeless people are nearby, whether it was the homeless or whether it was the roadside on the footpath wala tailor who used to stitch his shirts. He would never go to a tailor shop. Or whether it was my dad took me to this doctor, and he was the only doctor who could treat me, who would take 2 rupees and nothing more from his patients. And he was one of the best general physicians that you can come across in Chennai. Those kind of people who they connected me with. And my mom was also, though she refuses to believe me, she's a great sales and marketing person and has started a lot of businesses for her people in that she knows. So those are the things where they have helped people, which kind of subconsciously left an imprint in me to say that, hey, it is a good thing to not just look out for yourself, but the people around you as well. So growing up like that and then saying that, hey, and the initial phase, and I don't regret it at all, till my late 20s, I definitely kept thinking about how I could be independent, how I could be financially strong. Probably, I mean, the only regret that I have is the thought kicking in a little earlier than what I did in terms of signing up for LMP or giving a lot more back. But I just had the initial thought was to build my own competencies, my own financial independence. But along the way, the thought of how do I also, now that I've reached a place where I know that I am on a path where I'm financially independent or working towards that, how do I now look at doing the other sides of things that I want to do with life? That's where my journey kind of took a turn. I was also on the way, I also found a partner who had very, very similar values. And I'm still very lucky to have him as my partner. So that kind of worked in my favor as well. And yeah, so the LMP was at least for me, it was a no-brainer because it was something that just said that, hey, this is something that all of us should do when we are reaching a stage. But the value add that LMP brings to me, at least, is that it gives a lot of structuring into the thinking rather than it being very ad hoc. So that's where it was. But I'm just curious. So Pratik, how do you think this is going to help you in terms of structuring? Like I'm sure you already, you shared your experience of what you did in Amsterdam, but if this has kind of set you on a path, that would also be wonderful to learn.
Yeah, definitely. So like you said, right, LMP and the whole ecosystem helps a lot in structuring for sure. What I also think is there's a lot of learning while speaking to different pleasures, and especially the senior pleasures who have been in philanthropy for all these years and decades, to learn that how do you set up the criteria and even small discussions. I think that's also a lot of synergy. And at least I learned a lot. I've spoken to a couple of pleasures, and I'm trying to always connect with different people within the LMP and learn, because I think I'm still like too early in my journey of giving and this whole the whole pathway. That's one thing, the system and the learning. Other than that, one thing is which goes at the core, I believe, of every human, right? The tribe mentality we have that from millions and millions of years. That's how like humans have evolved. And I also believe that it's very important to like have that tribe of where you know that these are the kind of values which each one shares, and these are the kind of like similarities each one has, and then together trying to create that impact. Like, for example, we are having this event right today, where there's so much of positivity, the energy, the vibe. I can already feel it, like connecting with all of you. And I'm sure like the people who are also seeing it are connecting. And that's also the whole tribe is built, and it spreads out, right? LMP also started with just an idea to one pleasure, second and third. And now I think there are more than 72 or 76. And that's how also probably like one person create like helping people versus 75 people coming together and sharing ideas and just sharing the whole vibe and trying to make a difference. I think that's also the society slowly would start changing. Of course, we can't expect the whole country to immediately like transform, but I feel this is the spark that starts the whole process.
Yeah, no, but interestingly, there's a research which talks about how it takes only 3% of the population for a movement to be started and the reform to be established. So,
Oh, wow.
If you look at 3% of India signing up, also that is a good number to start with.
Yeah. Wow. Oh, we are actually 89 promises right now. I just see the chat. Wow. Close to 100.
Century, yeah.
Yeah, indeed. Dinesh, do you want to add to that?
No, I think what you said made perfect sense, right? When you go to a school, or wherever you go join a club. I'm a nerd, so let's say you go join a science club, right? You go there just because you have like-minded people who can accelerate whatever you're doing, right? And I think LMP is essentially very similar, right? You have like right now 89 like-minded people who are trying to work towards uh, a particular goal, and we're able to collaborate and brainstorm on how we can do that better. But yeah, like I mentioned, the biggest reason or the main reason that I joined LMP is so that I can learn from others, right? So basically what Archana also mentioned, right? The structuring part of it. I know I want to contribute, but how do I contribute, or how do I go about contributing, right? And I've spoken with a couple of ledgers already who not only are just giving the money, but rather have dedicated their entire lives to organizations. I spoke with somebody called Mr. Deepak Sharma recently, who has this an NGO going where they're purely working on this, right? So I think that is what's super cool about LMP. You got people who who've already been working on this for a while, who want to work on this, and who've just getting started. Yeah.
I mean, just two things. One is, one part that kind of triggered in my head was when you said that, you're a nerd, which is also kind of telling me to connect with you more. But yeah, so at the nerds, and they go and look out for similar kind of venues and where they want to do. Something that, even I have been I had not thought about giving back or what I want to do, or just even noticing what's happening around me, or thinking about the big picture of my own life. All of that in my in the 20s. I quite admire how you guys have looked at it so early. So, but just that, how do you stay kind of conscious of what's happening around you, and what is that trigger to say that I want to go and find more like-minded people? That's the small regret that I have, that should I have looked at it a lot earlier than what I did. Which is, I mean, when I signed up for LMP, I am in the 30s, or I should say I was just about in the mid 30s.
Yeah. I think that's a wonderful point for sure. I also think many times about that, especially like when we reflect to the past, right? We can only, I think Steve Jobs mentioned, Dinesh would know, we can only connect the dots looking backwards, and we can say like, yeah, we should have done this, that. I feel like at the same time, it's sort of like a process of I don't know, I don't want to sound like educationist or anything like that, but it's also a process of evolution, that when we try certain things and we realize that this is not that thing, and then move on to the others, and then like realizing, okay, this is something that is indeed or these are the kind of people that are indeed the tribe, or and then like go in that process. It just becomes an, I think, natural that way. And I think that's the whole journey also about it, which I feel like indeed there is no perfect time. Many times we say, right, that whether it be philanthropy, giving, and or creating an impact, that they're doing it at any stage of life. I personally think it should start right from the childhood. That why can't we have, when we give kids pocket money, why can't we teach them to give a percentage of that to and really inculcate the values right from there. Because I think then they also see, right, that indeed it's not only about just me, it's about like, what can I do with that? After all, money and everything is just a resource. What can we do with that resource to create some value in someone's life? And I feel like, yeah, and in a way, probably in ancient India, we had that system of Kuru Dakshina and all of that, like when kids were sort of like at least imbibed with that seed of giving, which probably right now, everything has been just lost in the modern this thing. But yeah, like I feel that's something where if we remove the age factor and all of it, it's a lifelong process, right from the beginning, the moment you start creating a value for yourself, how can you share that value with others?
You're on mute, Louis.
Pratik, could I jump in over here and ask you something more about, you talked about giving small, for example, when you're a kid and part of your pocket money you give away, and there was this discussion we were having with some of the promisors in Mumbai recently, where one felt that we need to push people to actually give more as opposed to just making a promise. Now, when I look at y'all are young people. You'll need to sort of also build up your own capital. You need money for your own businesses. You need money for emergencies, for kids' education, etc. And I was pushing back, saying it's not everybody can give today. They can pledge, they state the intent, but it's something which can be given over a period of time. Do any of y'all have any thoughts on that? It's good to start something small, but it doesn't have to be big in the initial period. Any thoughts, any of y'all?
Oh, yeah, I mean, yeah, if I may begin, right? So I think that makes a really good point, right? But if I were to just talk about myself, and full disclosure, I haven't really started using LMPs, or network to do anything, right? I signed up, if I'm not wrong, about 6 months ago, and I still haven't, done anything solid yet. But I was one of those guys. Again, I started my business when I was in my first business when I was in undergrad, and just again because of the background that I came from, we were always on buy what you need and nothing more, right? So right from when I was 22 or 23, I always had more money than I can spend, right? So whether it went into going back into one of my businesses or anything, I definitely had a surplus, and I was always, if not structurally putting it into anything philanthropic, but I was always doing something about it. Whether I could have spent a lot more at that time, I'm not sure. Even today, if you ask me, Dinesh, would you be able to put in some more? I would say no. I'll put in whatever I can comfortably, because, like you said, right? So even with my businesses, these are going, but then I definitely need to plan for the future, and I can't be over ambitious and contribute a lot. But I definitely think it can start, and it shouldn't. It shouldn't have to wait till I'm retired or I'm really accomplished, because that's always going to be a moving target, right? If that makes any sense. You're on mute, Louise. Yeah.
That's absolutely, that makes so much sense. Anyone else would like to add on to that, or?
Yeah, so I mean, I can just walk you through how we approached it, and we are still in the nascent stages. So for me, in the initial, so we kind of looked at it as it was more an impulsive giving that we were doing at very small scale, that we come across something that we do relate to in terms of the cause, and then we would say whether if it was based on the emergency or the immediate need that was coming up, or if it was a cause that we related to a lot. So those were the areas that we were impulsively giving to. So when we have two kids, a boy and a girl, young ones. So when we looked at giving, and we were talking about what we want to do, and here we are talking only about what Hari and I have generated as the wealth. because we don't have the right to touch upon any of the parents and the hard work that they have put to generate the wealth. So when we started looking at it and we looked at the children front as well, with the children, it was more about the small things of, like, what Pratik was saying about inculcating the value of giving. That and we started in kind. We didn't give them money, but we did things like, if you're buying a toy, you need to figure out a toy which is working in good condition that you would like to give to another child, and then you can replace your toy. So that's the kind of what you've outgrown, you should be sharing with someone else before you get a new one. So those small practices is that we started, which kind of, when you also become a parent, you also learn your own way of life and where you can improve upon those. So we realized that we should do it ourselves too. So we started doing that. But over and above that, in terms of the giving, there is still the impulsive giving, which doesn't go away. Those are things that you see around you. And for me, these are the simple joys of life as well. When we initially started, like what Dinesh had said, for the first 6 months, we had actually not taken too much of an action at all. But having signed the LMP, it was something that was conscious in our mind as to something we need to work on. So Hari and I, both of us, Hari, of course, is far better financial modeler than me. So we both sat down and put down our entire life cash model of what we want to do and how we want to do. One other thing that we also did before we even signed up for LMP, keeping in mind the medical risks that might come up and what we need to have is a safety measure of sorts, keeping in mind what our earnings is also, we took out life insurances for both of us. Just so that, our children are not going to be left in a lurch if something happens to either one of us. So that was something that we did pick up even before we decided to go ahead and declare that we want to pledge as well. So those were some measures that we did take as, safety measures for our children, so to speak, in our minds. Not that the children demanded or needed, it's just something that we had in our minds that we did. And over and above that, once we started, then we kind of were able to zero down on the, not just the broad causes, but under each cause, what is it that we would like to do? And then start small. So in the structured giving, over and beyond the impulsive giving, in the structured giving, we had zeroed down on the causes and what kind of projects would we like to be involved in. And we put on a learning curve. So for the first 2 years, we said we will be on a learning curve. Hopefully, it will be a steep one. So in the first 2 years, we will invest in courses and learn about what's happening on the ground. Over and above our own professional lives, over and above our family life, there will be an investment required to learn what's happening for you to be able to grow your giving as well. So that's the approach that we have taken, and we are going up the curve, not at a pace that I would like to, but we are on the learning curve.
You've also, realized, and I'm going to jump in again. By the way, if anyone listening to this, if you have any questions, please put it into the chat. There is a question that's come up already in the chat, and Archana, I guess you're looking at that. So why don't you sort of run?
Yeah. Sorry, I have very powerful eyes.
Yeah. Go ahead and sort of let's respond to what Dheeraj had asked.
Yeah, no, so that's, I kind of partly answered it in terms of, taking out the life insurances. Earlier, it was in one of our names, thinking that we hadn't actually applied any logic as to why it was only one of our names, but it was in Hari's name, but the risk actually came to my life. So then we decided, okay, we will take in both of our names before we get into the pledge. So it was more about just setting up a launch pad. The foundational thought was that you need to set up a launch pad for your children. But beyond setting up the launch pad, what can you do with whatever you're earning? Like, that was kind of the faith in our own competencies of what we could do. So that's where it was in terms of just the financial planning. Were we confident about the financial security? There's always going to be risk. I will never say no to that. There's always going to be a risk, the practical risk of what's happening around you, what happens to your, whether it's your profession or whether it's your own personal life, whichever the case may be. Those are not going to vanish. So but does that mean that you will not take any action now? The answer is very obvious, so I'm not going to say it. But Pratik.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's I think you explained beautifully, for sure. I'll just add my personal thought process, especially when I was deciding and thinking that because it's a commitment, it's a pledge, right? Yeah, will I be able to fulfill it, etc. Not just right now, but throughout, and what happens in cases of uncertainties, etc. How I reflected was in terms of needs. So I realized that there'll be never, like you said, Archana, there'll be never like a financial like security. Okay, I have this much and it's going to be like sustaining me throughout the life and this and that, and there'll be no problems in life and there'll be no emergencies, nothing, etc. We don't know that. Life can be anyhow. That's also the adventure. But I think what's certain is that having that clarity, what are the needs and what are the wants. The needs are not that many. We don't need so many things, right? Each one of us. The wants are just endless. I can want today this, that, anything, just like, so for example, I decided like, okay, how am I gonna always like ensure like it's like fitting in me, that the things, the finances, etc. I decided I'm not going to fly business class. I don't need it. There's no need of that. It's just something which is luxurious for 8 hours, etc. But rather that much amount of money can be put into some better cause rather than all of that. Again, like these small choices, daily or monthly, etc., would determine ultimately like, okay, how much are you contributing or creating towards the cause, rather than the other way of having that financial security and this and that. At least in my personal opinion, that works to a certain extent, the calculations, etc., but we never know, anything can happen in life.
A bit out of curiosity, since you guys are still yet to find your partners, so this financial security, the decisions that you're taking, how does that kind of play into the partner that you guys are going to look at, or how the partner sees you is more important, I guess, also. So how do you guys see that panning out?
I'll take this if you don't mind, Pratik. So
Sure.
I mean, just to add to the previous question and this together, right? So this is something that I hadn't really put too much thought in till like yesterday, right? When we had the catch-up session, right? See, I was fairly confident about myself, right? I'm generally a very, very confident guy. I'm like, whatever happens, it's fine. Even if I run out of money, I'll find my way. I know I can do it. But then when the questions started coming in about the partner, finding a partner is fine. Yeah, and I think Pratik.
So that's why you went so quiet when we were talking about it yesterday.
No, I think Pratik articulated it well, right? But I think the bigger problem is, and this is in a way, and I think I learned a lot from you in the last few minutes about when I have a family of my own, right? And I think that's when the problem comes, right? I know even if I don't have,
that's not a problem. That's just the way of life.
What I mean to say is, I know I can live. If all goes bad, I know I can find my way through it. But then what happens when I have kids, and when I have to care for them, and I can't be this. I can't live a chaotic life like I do right now, right? Bachelor life, do whatever I want, doesn't matter if it goes well, right? That's the kind of thing that we're doing. So I think that's definitely something that I've been putting putting thought into. Again, at least if I were to speak for myself in a way, but my parents have taught me again to have one sort of uh, a constant stream of income, and then whatever I can experiment in, right? And that's something that I've definitely not figured out how to set up because it's still too early. But then I think that's an interesting way, and I know this is going towards some economic session or economic session or whatever, but that's something that's been running on my mind since our conversation yesterday. But in terms of choosing a partner, I think and I don't want to skip Karthik's lines, but there are a couple of values that you do look for a partner, and only when they match, we're gonna go forward with that, right? So there's no rush in actually finding a partner, but I'm hoping I do find a partner who's okay with it. Even otherwise, I don't think that's a big hassle. I think what I want to do with my personal life, I think I still can, while keeping my family happy, my family completely satisfied, right? So I think either way it goes, I think it would work out fine. But then I'm just always too over optimistic about all these things. So we'll see how it goes. But Pratik, yeah, go ahead. You had a few points to add on that, right?
Yeah, I think you also mentioned it beautifully, especially the part wherein we don't know things we can't say right now, right? For like precise definition. Again, it's life partner. Again, like life, we never know like who's the right person, etc. Plus, there's love involved, everything, feelings, etc. But I'll just share a personal example. Of how I see things, which is also, I don't know, it's it's just probably funny also. So when what happened was a couple of weeks back, I met this girl, and then we were like, okay, let's go for a date. But then I was feeling like, okay, the dinner and this and that, but really like it's a weekend, and then it's Children's Day also, and I've been thinking for a long time to spend like Children's Day at an orphanage, and then I thought, okay, let me just invite her for a date at the orphanage. So what, like we can if we vibe, if we have the same values, and then thereafter we can go for a dinner. So I did that. I invited her. I told her like, hey, I'm planning to go for Children's Day to this orphanage and celebrate it with them. Would you like to join me? And then her reaction was, oh, yeah, for sure. Like that would be wonderful. And it was a beautiful experience. I think one of the best dates, you can say, where it was not just like about like, of course after that we went for a dinner, we went outside, but then like that also was like, okay, yeah, we share so much in common, right? If we have to do this lifelong, and why not do it right from the beginning? And which also like probably shows like, are we like matching values, etc. So I think going back to like probably like realizing that, is this meaningful, like for yourself? Like for example, in my case, like I know this is something meaningful, much more meaningful in just like helping or creating certain impact in someone's life. Then probably like being authentic to that, or just like being certain that yes, this is me. The kind of partner you would attract eventually, and the person who's not like that would not get, I think, automatically, like they would say like, okay, what's the stupidity? I was thinking of a date at a fancy restaurant or something, and and why do we go to an orphanage? So automatically, I don't think that's a good fit automatically, like in terms of both of us, right? So yeah, like I think to cut it short, sorry if I went too on board.
No, it was a very interesting experience.
Yeah, I was.
Dinesh is also taking notes.
Definitely am. I mean, I don't think I have the courage to ask somebody on on the first date for an orphanage. I'll definitely give that a shot, even when the opportunity comes. But yeah, that's something that's so cool, Pratik.
I just felt like one of my mentors are also told me like the kind of people in life and business etc you want is the kind of people like which are like you, and then you want to like he's an extremist. He said that you want to repel the people who are not like they should not but yeah, not taking it to that extent, but I think yeah just
Yeah. So this is my personal view, at least. Um, what you had said earlier about your needs and then your wants, and the wants being unlimited, um, and um, and also in terms of the person that you're finding as your partner in life. For me, at least, there is the foundational values and the principles of giving back, but however and whatever you can, are not linked to the choice of profession the person has. Like, there is this, I don't know, a sort of kind of bias that people in the development sector find it more harder. It's more likely that they find people who are in the development sector for them to settle down with in whatever way. But I don't actually believe that the person who has to be a giver has to be in the development sector or associated professionally to the development sector in any way. They can be just normal day-to-day people who just have this thought, like all of you, right? So it's just the thought of doing that over and above your own lives is all that matters to us. So that is something that I just want to break this notion of if you are in this space, you are an LMP signatory, then the person you're most likely to marry will be also in the social sector, and that's not the case. It's just the normal day-to-day people that have this attitude to give back to the community as well. That's one thing. It also comes from my own personal experience where Hari is in the financial industry while I do my own things. But yeah, so it's just like this notion of people in the social sector can only marry people in the social sector, or people in the corporate or the the private sector can only find such people with such attitude only in the development sector is, I just feel a little faulty.
that's true. For sure.
And the other thing that you said about the wants, so I'm just upfront in saying that I have not reduced my wants at all. I do want to travel. I love traveling, and I do like collecting the smart toys. So I do continue to do that as well. So there are things that I won't even call it a compromise, that I will not stop doing, but that doesn't mean that we don't want to give away or share. I won't say it as giveaway, but share, because I also learn a lot. So yeah. And Manisha Sheth has asked a question. Dinesh, Pratik, do you want to take it?
Sure.
I think that's an interesting point, right? But again, that I think Archana partly answered that. What Manisha said is asking is, do we adopt a limits to growth philosophy in our personal lives? How much personal wealth do we continue to accumulate so that we can give it away? I personally feel, if I were to be completely honest, I personally feel that's a very not the right way of taking this, where whatever we're doing, right? We're doing it's because we want to do it, and not because we have to do it, or right. So it's because we want to give it away, right? And I go against the logic that somebody who's making a lot of money should give it away. I want to give it away because I want to give it away, right? I want to contribute to this, and that's why I'm doing this. If somebody doesn't want to, I fully respect their decision. So I don't think that's limiting personal growth, or limiting the amount of money that we accumulate is the right way of doing it, at least from my point of view. But I think if I do keep that open, it's going to give me more freedom to contribute more. So that's the way I look at it. If you guys want to add anything on that.
For sure, sure. Like Archana also mentioned, I think she partly answered the question that indeed you don't want to limit yourself in any way, like in terms of wants, etc. In my case also, it wasn't like I like actively thought about like, hey, because I have to do this, I should stop this thing, like stop business class flying, etc. There was a element of that, but then moreover, it felt just meaningful that and made sense to me that that particular sum of amount can be put to another cause, because this is not something which is meaningful to me, or this is not something that I'm like truly want. Similarly, I think the whole fact about like accumulating, and as Dinesh also mentioned that the right way is indeed like you want to do this regardless of anything, and you don't want to like it's not something that you have to do it, or you have to like have it in numbers or anything like that. Like, yeah, I've got so many millions or billions, and now I'm gonna do this. No, that's not the thing. In fact, at a very nascent stages, there are so many people like Archana mentioned in the social development sector, right? Probably they're doing much more in terms of giving, which is in terms of time and efforts, probably not money, which is also, I think, equally. So giving or creating an impact is not just about the money, right? It's also about the time. There are multiple resources. So they're doing it at the same time, or as much as anyone else is doing. And I think, yeah, that Archana, would you like to add something to that? To the question?
Yeah, no. So it kind of relates to my wants, and I mean, for me, I kind of I've been quite lucky. I like I have, between Hari and I, and thanks to him, we've kind of been able to say we will take a conscious and periodic reviews of who's focusing more on the financial side or the but both of us will not compensate on the professional growth side in whichever space that we are. So that is something that we're very clear about. We are not, very frankly, we're not really thinking about a limit to the growth at all. As long as you enjoy what you're doing and you're continuing to, see the value that it brings to your own growth, personal growth, why should you stop doing it? I mean, for me, it's something that it's kind of being dead without the growth of learning that you bring into your life. So that's never going to stop. And from there, how do you plan for it? To play into other factors of your life, whether other aspects of your life is the question. So no limits to anybody, as they say in the Star Trek. But continue to grow, but also keep an eye on where the growth leads to.
It's super cool how you bring Hari into the conversation every time, right? So we can already feel that you guys are, on the same page at every level, right? Whatever you do, at least, I mean, when we're talking about, donating or being philanthropic, right? It's super cool. And I think we have a lot to learn. I think Pratik would agree that we've already got learned a lot of the last half an hour or so. But if I may ask, Archana, so you did talk about, your health not being well, and how that kind of shaped this. Would you be open to sharing something on that?
Yeah. So that was an incident literally out of the blue for us. So both Hari and I kind of got into a major fitness regimen about 4 years back or so, to the extent that I had gotten into martial arts, and he was into the regular fitness regime. And in 2019, after we had signed the LMP pledge, the Living My Promise pledge, in 2019 August or so, it was just like both of us were just standing next to each other, and I just said and got into a seizure mode. Like, I'm not saying the other way I screamed it out, but yeah, so that was like a sudden collapse which none of us had expected at all. So got rushed to the hospital, and we found that I had an aneurysm. Aneurysm being the veins being swollen, which is there for majority of the population. It's only harmful when it is in the brain, liver, or the heart. Mine was in the brain, and there were two of them. It's like oversupply of aneurysm in my head, and both of them decided to burst at the same time. So got into a very critical stage where I didn't. I mean, I of course didn't know anything that was happening, but Hari was essentially not aware of whether I would survive it or not. So those couple of days were very, very, very stressful for Hari, from what he has shared with me. So about 7 to 8 days after that, my eyes were open and the skull was too, but I didn't have any conscious thought. So the doctor's verdict was essentially that the surgery went well, and yes, the aneurysm has been clipped, as in the veins are being clipped, and there won't be any more blood flow. But will she be okay in terms of, not having any physical or mental disability? Whether she will be back to normal, or whether we are going to be having a normal life. How the brain, generally when you do surgery on the brains, there's also the brain remapping that occurs. So all of those were questions that were left open. In all of this time, and again, I'm sharing what Hari had shared with me. One of the things that Hari had a question in front of him, which had kind of, hit him was, we are LMP pledges, and what does that mean to me now that she's not going to be around? If she's not going to be around, rather, was a question that struck him. And he walked me through the rationale of what we had done. And it also fed back into what we had done even before we signed up, in terms of the life insurances that we had taken, and making sure that the children are, also taken care of. So all of those questions kind of popped up in his head. And at the end of the day, he said, we were pledges, keeping in mind all of these risks that could come by our way. So there was absolutely no reason or even any logic or rationale to step away from that pledge, knowing that we had thought through it. And in a way, he also said that in the event that I do not survive, it would also be something that he would like to continue to do, keeping in mind that that was a decision that we had jointly taken as well. So we kind of done the preparatory work, but this kind of reinforced our faith as to why we should continue to do this. But yeah, so it was a life-changing event for both of us in very different ways. I, of course, now have reached a place where life has a very different meaning, but for him, it's also a reinforcement of why we should continue to be contributing as much as we can. But yeah, so that was a reinforcement rather than a diversion of why we need to be part of it.
I think that's very interesting, right? Because that also means, like you just said, we got to start early, right? Just like we have our wants, this is also something that we want to do, and we got to start as soon as we can. So we are on our paths, and this can happen to any one of us, right? It's I think Pratik also mentioned
Absolutely.
that life is very.
Just to be clear, martial arts didn't have anything to do with it.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing such a personal story, and especially, right, like we don't know any emergency, anything can happen. So a quick question which popped up was, you mentioned like it reinforced after this whole thing, this whole incident, that it makes most like in towards giving. What changed, like in terms, did you change certain things within few months, etc., with your causes, with your pledges, anything on those terms?
Yeah. So, earlier I had spoken about the learning curve side of it, where we wanted to start small, and then in a lot of this, Hollywood or Bollywood, whichever, or Collywood, whichever way you look at it,
Or
they
Tollywood,
talk
yeah.
about how life is short. The conscious thought of life being short does kick in a lot more. And the speed to action, what you guys have shared about starting earlier itself, but not just in terms of the pledge, but also translating that to action, kind of that accelerated in our minds. So the reinforcement came on both lenses. One is in terms of why we had signed up, and second in terms of the speed to action. Those are two things that kind of got reinforced by that. Yeah.
Could I jump in, guys?
Sure.
Sure. This has been a fascinating hour with you, chaps. Here. There's so many lessons which I've learned, and I'm a 60-year-old old guy. So it's not only for people who are under 40, but the lessons. And Archana, the story which you shared about the brain hemorrhage was so powerful because it makes us realize that even when things like this happen to us, which shake whatever we thought our future would look like, there are certain things which are still constant and you don't want to change. So that's fabulous. I'd love to hear your enthusiasm, your positivity, and also the fact that you don't have all the answers today. You don't know what the future is going to be like. Start small, start early, and the fact that our needs can be endless. But what should our wants be? Sorry, our needs are not much, but our wants can be endless. I can get that right. We've also had some very interesting dating tips, how to manage your spouse and the relationships, how to spend less. But, and this whole question comes about how much is enough and how much do we have? And I go back to a story that one of my mentors, Victor Menezes, told me a long time back. There were these two authors, Kurt Vonnegut and Joseph Heller, were having dinner at this rich hedge fund manager's house. And Vonnegut told Heller, what do you think about the fact that our host possibly made more money yesterday than you made in your entire life? And Heller replied, but I have something that he doesn't have. And Vonnegut asked him, what is it? And Heller replied, the knowledge that I have enough. And that's so important for all of us to do so. And so as we sort of, try to wrap up this session, is there anything that you guys would like to end up and sort of add as a wrap-up comment?
Before that, I think there's a question for you, Luis.
Yes, thank you. I got a question from Venkat. What did I think about when I was 30 about giving? And it's as when he started off, I did mention I didn't think about these things, but I actually went back to my college application form, and I know we're exceeding time, so Gunjan, I hope we can continue for another couple of minutes. But when I applied to business school, I did in my sort of application form, which again, just to show how old I am, it was typed out. It wasn't on a computer printout. It wasn't online. And I said that I want to go to business school. I want to come back to India and eventually get into politics. So there was this element of doing something for society or doing something other than just making money. But then I think about, do I need to start early and keep sharing some money, etc. I did it, but not in any systematic manner that you guys are doing, which is why Living My Promise helps you give the structure. And one of the notes that I've taken for myself is hearing you chaps have put pressure on us to help you guys give structure. How do we help you? Because I have actually been pushing back saying this, and I don't want to get that much involved. People know what they have to do, but I'm hearing from you is that no, you join as LMP to also get that structure. So come back to this point of getting into politics or wanting to make a change. Fast forward to 3 years later, when I was in '89 at the dinner of one of my friends. We were classmates at Booth, and I was having dinner at his house in the summer of '89 before heading back to India. And I remember that dinner for two reasons. One, I dropped my glass of red wine on his white tablecloth, not once, but twice. That's really an embarrassment. And secondly, the question his father asked me. His father asked me, Louis, what are your plans? And I said, I'm going back to India. I'm going to work for Citibank. And then, eventually I want to get into politics. And he asked why. And I said the same thing that all of us say in our 20s. I want to have an impact, want to change the world, do this, do that. And he said, Lewis, you don't need to get into politics to have an impact. The world needs good bankers. Be a good banker. The world needs good lawyers. Be a good lawyer. The world needs good teachers. Be a good teacher. The world needs good politicians. Be a good politician. Entrepreneurship wasn't big then, so he didn't say the world needs good entrepreneurs. Be an good entrepreneur. But the bottom line is something which I've still, remember for the last 32 years, is that whatever you're doing, if you do it well, or as Gandhi said, hold it as a trustee, you hold it as a trustee for other people, and you set aside something to help other people, you're on the right track. Venkat, I hope I've answered your question, but now pass it back to you guys here. Any thoughts?
Yeah, can I quickly add, because before I forget, such a wonderful like the whole notion, and it just reminded me of a very small short story which I'd read I think months back. It was on the same lines, Lewis. It was about this barber in New York City, and he's like one of the best barbers over there, and like having this clientele of A-list celebrities, everything, etc. And like from Monday to Friday, he is working with the celebrities and with the A-list people. And on Saturdays and Sundays, he just goes out to the streets and goes and gives a haircut, etc., takes care of the homeless people over there. And that just reflected, right? You can be anything in your career. You can be a politician, businessman, barber, but as long as you're doing it well and helping people along the way, it just makes the profession meaningful. And I think LMP is also, like Archana had also mentioned, that you don't need to be in a social development sector. Most of the people over here are not in that. We are just normal people, everyday professions, and trying to just do whatever small impact can be created.
That's a fabulous story.
Yeah, and I think we, the discussion also came into a beautiful close, right? I think if I had any personal takeaways from this, was one, the time is now. It's not when I'm accomplished or later, right? And I think that also fits in well with why we have young promisors, or why we have people under 40. So time is now. And then second most important takeaway I see here is we're doing this because we want to, and right, for the right reasons, and not because we have to doing this to somebody else, right? So I think I think that got reinforced, at least for me, very well after this. And I hope that's that. I mean, a lot more people are getting inspired by what the discussion we had.
So I'm just going to say thank you to LMP, because I love meeting new people. So I have now met two very interesting chaps, and I shall nag you away. So LMP also gives you the simple joys in life, apart from the big picture, structured thinking and everything else. So it was wonderful meeting all of you.
Super.
Thanks
Thanks a lot. And both the two of you all are in Chennai. So
Yep.
Yes.
yes.
And
we gotta catch up on
so I have remembered this.
Thanks a lot, you guys. Archana, Dinesh, and Pratik. That's been a fabulous sort of hour with you all on a Sunday morning. Thank you for your time. Thank you for all the sort of advice you're giving in, and most carefully pushing us that we need to help you guys also. Take care.
Thank you so much. Have a good day. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.